because I mentioned that we were talking tonight.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. Wait just a minute for everyone to get logged in. Okay, well, it is 5 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to our program today. My name is Holly Litfin, and I'm the interim chair of the Homeschool Committee here at Indianapolis Public Library. This program is hosted by the Homeschool Committee, and we have several members of the committee here today. Could our members go ahead and give us a little wave? There we go, just so you guys can see who we are. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask us in the chat. Our committee started in 2015 with the mission to develop a plan to motivate and train library staff to best and consistently meet the diverse needs of home education families throughout our system. Last year, we were excited to host a homeschool fair and to help families connect with resources in our community. And this year, our goal has been to provide information sessions for homeschool families on topics of interest to them. Due to COVID-19, these sessions have moved online. And today we have the privilege of hearing from our partner at the Indiana State Library, Suzanne Walker, about their online resources. Our next online session will be Homeschooling 101 on Tuesday, September 15th at 2 p.m. And that's going to be presented by Lori Berman from the Indiana Association of Home Educators. We'll have that registration link up shortly on the events calendar, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll send out a link to everyone when we have that available as well, just to invite you all. We would also love to hear from all of you about what topics are important to you as homeschooling families. Please feel free to share all of that in the chat anytime during the session. We ask that everyone remain muted during the program just so we don't have any issues hearing our speaker, but you can type your questions in the chat box anytime, and we'll be watching that to answer during our Q&A time. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Shelby Peak, who is a librarian at the Franklin Road branch and a longtime member of this committee.
All right, thanks, Holly. I get the pleasure of introducing our speaker today. Suzanne Walker received her Master's of Library Science from Indiana University. She's currently the Indiana Young Readers Center librarian and director of the Indiana Center for the Book, which is an affiliate of the Library of Congress. She coordinates Indiana's Letters About Literature competition annually, and in the past, she has served as the supervisor of the Professional Development Office and the Children's Consultant at the Indiana State Library. Prior to her time at the Indiana State Library, she was the Director of Youth Services at the Mooresville Public Library and the Teen Librarian of the Lebanon Public Library. So I'm going to go ahead and let Suzanne take it away.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Is it good? Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to say thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Suzanne. Like Shelby said, I work at the Indiana State Library, which is located in downtown Indianapolis, right by the State House near the canal. You can think of us as the library for the state of Indiana. Our library specializes in all things Indiana, including maps of Indiana, newspapers from every Indiana county, genealogy about Indiana families, and books by Indiana authors, including Indiana authors who write for children. So this is the area of the library that I work in. It's the Indiana Young Readers Center, and we are currently open by appointment. We'd love to have you guys come and visit. Feel free to email my email address there, and we could schedule a time if you're interested. We also provide the state with a huge suite of online databases and resources for Indiana citizens, many of which are provided or are appropriate for homeschooling. And you can find those at inspire.in.gov. That's what we're going to be talking about for the bulk of the presentation. Don't worry, you'll see that address many times. The resources that I'm going to talk to you guys about today are paid for with your tax dollars. So I'm always kind of like, you might as well use them. You've already paid for them. But before we get to those resources, we're going to talk a little bit about homeschooling and why it's different this year than previous years. And of course, I am talking about COVID-19. And if you just want to hear about the online resources, you could step away for like 10 minutes and then come back and I'll be on the resources. But right now I'm going to do just a real quick introduction to homeschooling. So many of you might be traditional homeschooling parents already. You were homeschooling before the pandemic, you've been homeschooling during the pandemic, and you're going to be homeschooling after the pandemic. But some of you might have chosen to homeschool at this time because of the pandemic, or you're simply here because you're looking for some ways to supplement the remote learning of your children, the remote learning that your children are doing in partnership with their traditional brick and mortar schools. So today we're actually going to talk about both of those scenarios. And I'm going to start by defining our terms a little bit. So what are we actually talking about? So we do like to make a differentiation between homeschooling and remote learning. They're not the same thing. Homeschooling is when you, the parent, are choosing the subjects and the curriculum that you're going to cover with your student. You're choosing the days of the week that you will have school. You are tracking the student's progress. And in the end, you're the sole entity that's responsible for making sure that your child is getting an education. Remote learning or e-learning is when the student is still enrolled in their brick and mortar school. Their school may have gone to, one second please, there you go. Their school may have gone to 100% remote learning, or they might be doing a hybrid where the student is in the brick and mortar building a couple times a week, and maybe they're remote learning on the other days of the week. And in remote learning, the school is the one that's choosing the subjects and the curriculum that's going to be covered. And in this scenario, the school and the parent are really partnering together and sharing responsibility for ensuring that the child is getting an education. Also, this remote learning option is really temporary, at least we hope it is, and is most likely due to the pandemic. And there's one more scenario I want to touch on, and that's online only school. So parents might choose to enroll their students in an online only school. There are several public charter schools like this that exist in Indiana, as well as private online schools. And if you're going this route, you just want to do your due diligence and research your new online school before you enroll your child. And in this scenario, the student is usually doing a 100% online version of school, and they're not enrolled in a brick and mortar school. So similarly to doing the remote learning option here, the school and the partners really do, or the schools and the parents really do partner together to make sure that the child is progressing in their education. And I always like to point out that there are some online school options that are tuition free because they're charter schools, and there are other ones that are private that do require tuition, and there are some that are even kind of a hybrid of maybe they only have a few courses that they offer. So there's definitely other scenarios out there too, or hybrids of all three of these options. I think this year we are definitely going to get some creative parents out there that are finding unique ways to choose to educate their children. And for all of the learning at home scenarios that I'm going to talk about today, there's a few things that you can do to make your experience easier and more successful. And these suggestions probably apply to all of you, no matter what kind of learning you're doing, whether you're doing traditional or remote learning or online school. So first of all, you want to determine a routine for what the days of the week are going to look like. Let your kids know what your expectations are about day-to-day activities. Work together to create a schedule. If you can get a routine worked out, this can smooth out a lot of troubles later on. Another thing is to make a plan for meals for your family. This might seem like a no-brainer, but for families that were relying on school for several meals each week, you might look at applying for SNAP. You might look at your school to see what kind of what kind of meal options they have. I did include a link there for more information about USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And I mean, listen, all families can benefit from talking to your children about when meals will be served each day and when snacks will be available and what snacks are going to be available. I heard from a lot of parents in back in April and May where kids were asking for snacks every hour, right? Can we remember that? And with more time at home, it's really easy to start eating a lot of salty or sweet snacks. So set the expectation really early about what kids can eat when. Another tip is to model the behaviors that you want to see in your child. If you want your child to read more, make sure they see you reading and reading for fun. If you want them to spend sustained time working on a task, make sure they see you doing that same thing. And if you want them to make good nutritional choices, guess what? You have to do that yourself. So do think about modeling the behaviors that you want to see in your child. The last tip is to set up a designated workspace for each person. It would be just awesome if everybody had their own workspace, but if that's not possible, make a schedule for when each person gets their screen time, their desk time, etc., and get creative. Even something as simple as like a card table and a chair can be a good workspace for a student. So those are just a few things that can really help in any home learning environment. Okay, so now we're going to do a real quick introduction to traditional homeschooling. Indiana has really friendly homeschool laws for those of you that are interested in starting homeschooling in Indiana. You'll definitely want to read up on them for yourself, which you can do at the Indiana Department of Education at their homeschool page. But essentially, this is how you start homeschooling in Indiana. First of all, you want to do some research, like attending this presentation. Good job. Read as much as you can about homeschooling. The second thing is if your child is currently enrolled in a brick and mortar school, you want to notify the school in writing that you'll be withdrawing your child so that you can homeschool them. The third thing is that you have to have school at least 180 days a year. You get to decide what that school will look like, what that schedule will look like. And then you have to keep attendance that shows that your child attended school for 180 days and which days that you had school. And then the last thing is that you have to provide instruction equivalent to that given at the public school, but state law doesn't really define what that means, so there really is a lot of flexibility in what you can cover in your homeschool. And that's it. So once you've done all of that, you're homeschooling. Woohoo, in Indiana, it's really simple. So because I don't have a lot of time to go into how to homeschool, I just put this really handy dandy slide together with lots of links to great homeschool information. The link to this presentation that I'm doing right now will be emailed to you afterwards, so you'll get the link to all of these links. I do have IDOE, Indiana Department of Education, on there. And then I went ahead and included a link to the Indianapolis Public Library because they rock and they're a really good resource for you. And the last link is a website that was put together by the Tennessee State Library Association. And it's a really great resource that covers all kinds of things, including different methods of homeschooling. So your Charlotte Mason approach, your Montessori approach, and many others. And it has lots of links to suggested curriculum and a whole lot else. So if you're just starting and you don't know what to do, take a look at some of these. And best of luck in homeschooling. Okay, really quickly, how do we get started with remote learning? There's really not a big barrier to entry in getting started with remote learning through brick and mortar school. Those of you that are going this route might already even be doing it. I know IPS just started yesterday, so you might be doing it already or you might be doing it soon. And in order to have a real successful school year, I'd suggest doing some of these things. So the first thing is to become really familiar with your school's back to school plan. Be sure to check for updates because those change really frequently. You also want to be in close contact with the school. Key is making sure that your contact information is up to date at the school so that you're getting all the communications that they're sending out. And also, you want to be familiar with any supports that the school might be offering for families, like devices for students or food service or other things like that. The next thing is to familiarize yourself with the online platforms and tools that your child will be using. I know I have 2 stepkids and they have like 3 different platforms each that they're taking a look at. And I mean, clearly it's probably not going to be cool for you to sit next to them while they're on screen trying to do school, but you know, after school's over, take a look at some of those and make sure you understand the tools that the kids are using so that if they have questions, you might be able to help. Be aware they might be using more than one platform. And the other thing is to stay in communication with your students' teachers. Many teachers are available for specific office hours or are available by email or texting. And then here's just a few resources to help with remote learning. There's a couple of articles about ways that parents can help support during this crazy time that we're all living in. Okay, so quickly, we're going to talk about online school and then we will get on to the resources. I'm not really going to spend too much time on this other than to provide a few options for Indiana online schools. And I just want to encourage you to do your research about online schools if you're interested in going this route. Do know that there are public options that are tuition free. There are private options that require tuition. And there are also schools, particularly at the high school level, where you can just sign up your student for maybe 1 or 2 courses. So any of you, if there's anyone doing 100% online school right now, you can feel free to let us know in the chat box. And just be aware that all of these on my slide aren't really an endorsement of any one school. I'm just providing these links for your convenience. And I found them by Googling Indiana online schools. So you can do that as well. And I'm sure that there's other options out there outside of those. So again, you'll get all these links later. Those are just some examples of online schools in Indiana. Now, I didn't have my timer going, but I think that was probably about 10 minutes. And now we're going to get to the online resources available through the Indiana State Library. So here is that website. And again, you don't have to write it down because you're going to get these slides, but it's pretty easy to remember. It's just inspire.in.gov. And what Inspire is it's a suite of databases that is offered only to Indiana residents. So if you live in Indiana, you should have access. Inspire.in.gov is what we call IP authenticated. And what that means is that Inspire will go out and check to see where your internet is coming from. And if it's coming from Indiana, you're going to be in. But sometimes if you're close to the border, you might not be automatically authenticated. And if you can't get in right away, don't despair. Just follow the prompts and you'll be able to receive access. I think the way that that works is you get sort of temporary access and then you'll actually get a postcard through the mail, which will give you a code to get in forever. So that's pretty cool. So what can you find in inspire.in.gov? Well, you can find information on millions of topics, and I'm not even exaggerating. Exaggerating, right? Anyway, so the types of information, it comes in books, it comes in articles, images, news stories, biographies, and lots more. There's even specific tools that we're going to cover today on learning a language, on test prep, on historic Indiana artifacts, things about language arts. We're going to talk about all of that today. And the information on inspire.in.gov has been vetted by information professionals and it's been curated. So this is different from just doing a search on Google. This is a lot more fine. It's like using a better tool, really. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can go to a live demo. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. That looks great. So I'm going to start today. This is what Inspire looks like. You can see there's the search box at the top, and then you've got all of these databases down here at the bottom. And I'm going to show you what I call the big search first, and that's this search box at the top. And because we live in Indianapolis and because it's actually race week, right? The Indy 500 is, I think, is it this weekend? Who knows? I think it is. So anyway, we're going to look at the Indianapolis 500 and see what we get. So it'll just take a second to bring your results back. So this is what it looks like when you're looking at all the results that have been pulled back. For some of you, this might be pretty small on your screen, but we've got over 300,000 results about Indianapolis 500. That's way too many. This screen can also be a little intimidating to look at, so I'm going to kind of break it down for you. Across the top, we've got this green bar, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. We do have this search box, so you could go in and do another search if you wanted to. And then we have 3 columns. This first column over on the left is all about refining your search. So getting it down to more specifically what you want. In the middle, we have your results. And over here, we have some results that didn't feed into the middle. And I really think these are interesting, especially these news wires over here. You can see this top one was just from 4 days ago. So these can be really, really recent results as well. You also have this little research starter in the center. For some topics, it will pull up a research starter for you, which is really nice if you're just having your child maybe narrow a topic for something. This is a good way to start. The other thing I want to mention, let's see here, is, sorry, I've got my iPad down here telling me what to do. The other thing I want to mention is up here at the top in the green bar, you can see where it says sign in. You can actually sign in to the Inspire databases, and then you have the capability of creating folders and saving things for yourself so that you can come back to them later. I don't generally do that in a big search, but I wanted to let you know that it is available. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and limit our search a little bit because it's really broad right now. And again, that's over here on the left. So I'm over here on the left side of my screen. I do want to mention that the default for all the searching in Inspire is full text. So that means you're not going to get just a little abstract with a tiny bit of information about a topic. You're actually going to get the whole article, which is really great. So, but we have too much. So we're going to go ahead and narrow it down. I like to use the publication date slider to maybe get either only brand new information or older information. So I went ahead and narrowed this down to 2010 to 2020. And now you can see we don't have 300,000 hits, but we still have a lot. We have 148,000. So still quite a few. And the next thing I like to do is limit by format. So I'm going to scroll down again and come over to the left side again, because that's where we do all of our filtering. And I'm going to click this show more. And what this will show is it's going to show all the different kinds of things that we have about the Indy 500. We have 40,000 academic journals. We have a bunch of magazines. We have a lot of books. We have reviews. We have biographies. We have all kinds of things. So I'm going to go ahead and narrow by ebooks. And then I'm going to click update. You could pick a couple of things here if you just want news articles or whatever. So I've clicked update. Oh, it did a weird thing. Okay. It didn't do that when I was actually doing this earlier. Okay, we're going to try it again. Maybe I clicked something wrong. Let's do ebooks. See if we get it. Okay, there we go. Ha! All right. So you can see we've got 5,320 ebooks about the topic of Indianapolis 500. And what I want to show you here is that immediately there's a couple of ways to access your results. So at the top, we can just click on the title of the book, or we can get the PDF right here on our results screen, or we can even do a full download. Now, I want to caution you about the full download because it doesn't actually download the book to your computer and then you can keep it forever. It's really a little bit more like checking an ebook out so you can get it for a short amount of time, and it's just kind of a pain. So don't do that. Definitely just go to the full text download. But what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what one of the results looks like. So I'm just going to click on cool Indy cars because that sounds like fun. What? I don't know why it's doing that. Going back. Okay. I might go to my slides here in a minute if it does this again. So, well, let's look at Indianapolis 500. Let's see if that's going to work. All right, this worked. So on your results slide, or on your results that you get once you click on your title, you're going to see a lot of different things. I wanted to show you guys particularly the tools that are over here on the right. Do you guys all see those? So you can actually save this results to Google Drive. You can add it to a folder if you're signed in to Inspire. You could print it, you could email it. So for example, if you wanted your student to do a quick little report on whatever, the Indianapolis 500, and you wanted them to find, 3 resources, they could actually email them to you right from this page, which is kind of cool. So those are all really neat tools to look at. And then I also wanted to go ahead and show you what the PDF looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. and it's got a nice PDF viewing screen, and I do have these little zooming out things that I can use. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so we can see the whole title of this one. So this is Extreme Races, Indianapolis 500. And you can see over here to your left, you can actually scroll through the whole book, which is kind of cool. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you here on this page, now, if you have a student who's maybe older and is in high school and is actually writing research papers, I know you guys probably all wrote research papers in your day, and the worst part for me was always putting together my works cited page, because it was always a pain to figure out, okay, I'm doing MLA, I'm using APA, what does the teacher want? Well, if you find a source in Inspire and you need that information, you can just click on Cite, and up here at the top, it opens up this little window that's going to give you the exact thing to copy for your works cited. Now this one doesn't look 100% right. I will just mention that. My other one did, because this wouldn't cut it. So I don't know. I guess it's an example of how it's not always perfect. The other one that I did was, I swear. Anyway, okay. Technically speaking, sometimes it works. Apparently it's not right now. So at any rate, what can you use the big search and Inspire for doing? Well, you can use it for research papers, like I mentioned. You can use it if your student is doing a speech or a debate, if they're writing an article. These are all different assignments you might have. If they're putting together a bibliography on a topic, if they're narrowing their topic, you might use Inspire for that. And using the big search is it's gonna give you a broader experience than if you use a smaller type of search. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to get into specific databases. So up here at the top, we've got some different options. You can see the advanced search, databases A to Z, and then databases by subject tiled. Databases A to Z is going to give you a big list of everything, but I really like databases by subject tiled. And I'm going to see if I can actually make this smaller for you guys so you can kind of get a sense of what all we've got here. I think this is a good way to really wrap your head around what all we have. And I know the print is really small here, but this way you can see Inspire has things on biographies. We have business, we have careers, we have education, we have stuff about government and military, health and medicine, literature, news and history, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, math. And then we have the student search K through 6, a student search 6 through 12, and world languages. So what I'm going to show you on the student search K through 6 is if I click read more, there's actually, I'm just going to show you one individual database, but know that you can click into all of these and search for things more specifically. I'm going to start with Explora for elementary school students, and I might make this big again so that you can see. Oh, I don't like that snake. Let's go there. Cursive writing, that's better. Explora, yeah. So in Explora, this is a great way for children to get turned loose and be able to browse for things. So it's really visual. You can see, maybe you're going to have your child do a report on animals, any of these things. We're going to go ahead and click on biography. And then in here, they've chosen to kind of pull out 3 biographies of some different folks. So we could choose Maya Angelou, and then you can see the results here look really similar from what we looked at before in the big search, because these are both products of the same company. They're both EBSCO products. And we've got this topic overview. We've got our way to refine our searches just like we did before. So let's go back, and I'm going to go back to Big Inspire, and I'm going to make this bigger again for you so you can see a little bit better. Maybe one more. Okay, so what can you use? Oh, you know what? I had one more thing to show you. Well, here we are. Let's go. We're going to go ahead and do a search here. We'll do Indianapolis 500 again. Let's see if that's going to find it. Great. And you can see here we have a lot fewer results. We just have 1,570 versus the many that we had in the big Inspire. So this shows you that it's really narrowing down things that would be more appropriate for kids. And over here on the side, we can limit by biographies or whatever. So I went ahead and chose biography. And here we've got a bunch of biographies of race car drivers. So Alonso and Mario Andretti. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Mario and show you this fun thing that Inspire will do. So in this case, we don't have a fancy PDF. We just have access to what's called HTML full text. And you can see the same tools over here on the other side of the screen, including Google Classroom, if you happen to be using any of those types of things. And again, if you're signed in, you can use all of these. But what I really like is that it will actually talk to you. And I don't think this will work if I hit it right now over all of the Zoomy stuff that we have going on. But it's really fun to have your student look something like this up and have it read it to your student, and you can have them read it in different accents, like the American accent or an Australian accent or a British accent. So that's really fun. I always like to show people that. Okay, so what are some things that you can use individual databases for in Inspire? It's great for if you're limiting your results for, or limiting a topic, or even just limiting your results right away. It's great if you have a specific topic in mind. You can start out with a database that you know is going to be helpful. So, you know, if you were going to do a report or you're going to have your child do some research about something medical, they could start right away in Medline or some other medical database. It's really good to help you go deeper into a subject versus broader. And then some databases that I didn't tell you about that we have one specifically on hobbies and crafts that's really fun to look through. We have one about military things, and again, some health information. So all kinds of things there. Okay, now is the part of the presentation where I'm going to show you things that are super exciting. Not that that other stuff wasn't exciting. I know you're all really very excited about all of that, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about Rosetta Stone. So I can't really see all of you right now, but just nod to yourself if you know what Rosetta Stone is, and I'm imagining lots of people nodding. So Rosetta Stone is software that helps you learn languages. And I wonder if I can quickly flip back. I can. Here you go. I'm going to show you all the languages that you can learn in Rosetta Stone through the state library. Here it is. Okay, so we have access to level 1 for all of these different languages in Rosetta Stone, and you have access to it because you are an Indiana resident. Isn't that exciting? And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it, but you can see it's pretty cool that it's got access to Spanish, Latin American Spanish, and Spain Spanish. Also, this is a great tool for teaching English. English is a new language. It's got American English, and it also has British English, which is pretty fun. Other ones that are exciting, I think, is Chinese, Japanese, Irish. I have a friend that lives in Sweden, so I really need to get on and do all the Swedish ones. But I just love telling homeschool families about this because this is a really, I'll tell you all about all the great ways that you can use this here in a second. But I just think it's really great. Okay, so to use Rosetta Stone, you're just going to click on Rosetta Stone right here. And you do have to click on this little link here that says Rosetta Stone Library Solution. And once you get here, this is the sign-on screen, you do have to create an account specifically for Rosetta Stone. So if you have an account for Inspire, that's not going to be the same as this one. So you'd need to make a username and password specifically for Rosetta Stone. And then the other thing I want to mention is way down here, and it's sort of in small type, you can study more than one language. So switching from one language to the other language can only be performed on this page. So what I've found works the best is have your student work through all of level 1 of one language and then go to another one. Or you could sort of abandon your first language and then come to another language. It's not very easy to toggle quickly. It's sort of like you're going to commit to doing French for a while, and then you're going to commit to doing another language. But you can switch on this screen. And level 1 for each language gives you between about 30 and 60 hours of content. So it's not insignificant, which is pretty darn great. And homeschool uses for Rosetta Stone, clearly you can have your child learn a new language. Yay. It's also great to have, maybe you have a child that's on the fence about what language they want to learn. It's really good to kind of get in there and try a couple different things to see which one really is going to resonate with them. Is anyone traveling soon? I guess the answer to that is no. But if you were, Rosetta Stone is a really good resource to get ready before you go traveling. This is also a great way to try before you buy. There's lots of different language software out there. Maybe you've been thinking about Rosetta Stone, you're not really sure. This is a great way to give it a try before you actually purchase it. Learning a foreign language can be really helpful with spelling as well. So if we have anybody out there that's really interested in, doing the script spelling bee or something like that, Rosetta Stone could help you with spelling. And I also want to mention again that it is great for helping with learning English. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is Hoosier State Chronicles. So Hoosier State Chronicles is down here. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And Hoosier State Chronicles is a newspaper database for historic newspapers specifically about Indiana. So there is a little search box up here, and I'm just going to search for Brown Branch Library. You guys know what that is, right? Some of you from Indy. Let's see if this is going to work. I'm not going to be able to find the one that I found the other day. Oh, I know. Let me put it in quotation marks. That's a little librarian tip. If you ever are looking for something really specific, if you put it in quotation marks, you're more likely to find it. Okay, this is the one I wanted to show you. I think this is really fun. So I just did a big search, really. I'm not doing a lot of narrowing in here, and maybe I'm just looking for information about just to kind of see what I can find. That's what I do a lot of times in Hoosier State Chronicles. And this is what your result is going to look like. So it's an actual scan of the newspaper, and you can kind of manipulate it, go around, and you can even kind of zoom in to see what you find. I love this little article. So the Brown Branch Library used to be located on the east side of Indianapolis, and it's now the Irvington Branch Library, and the Irvington Library just kind of moved down the street from the Brown Library. The Brown Branch Library was my branch when I was a child, so that's why I was looking it up. So you can see here, if any of our librarians that are listening today are looking for a program idea, you could do this from 1959. You could start a great books group, and this is what they were reading back in 1959. They were reading the Declaration of Independence, Plato's Apology, Shakespeare's Macbeth, and Thoreau's Civil Disobedience. So I wonder how that would go today. Maybe not the greatest, but there's all kinds of things you can do with this. You can email it, you can do Facebook and Twitter, you can search in lots of different ways, but I just wanted to give you a real quick introduction to this historic newspaper site. It's really a great, powerful thing, and you can do so much with it. This is a really fun way to kind of research maybe family names, just see what pops up. I love looking at local community things to find the history of your community. Also your house. I actually did a search in this for my mother's address, and I was really interested to see the kinds of things that popped up. I found they advertised, actually they had a pony for sale, so the people that lived in my house used to own a pony. I don't know where they put it, but they did. This is also a fun thing to do with this, would be to have your child take a look at various advertisements to see how those changed over time. It's also interesting to look up historical events. For example, I've been kind of tooling around in here and looking at things from the 1918 flu pandemic. It's really interesting to see articles from that time. And another thing, which is even a little deeper, which maybe would be something you do with older students, would be to come in here and look and see what was reported when big things happened. So for example, we all know about the Holocaust. It's really interesting to see what was in the newspapers during that time. We know a lot now, but they didn't know as much then. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to Inspire. I hope you guys are just really excited to check out some of these after our presentation today because they're all really, really exciting. So the next thing we're going to look at is Indiana Memory, and it's similar to Hoosier State Chronicles, but what I want you to think of when you think of Hoosier State Chronicles, I want you to think newspapers, chronicles, newspapers, and when you think of Indiana Memory, I want you to think primary resources, because the things in Indiana Memory are things like photographs and items, like you can see scans of actual artifacts. And the thing I really want you to note right away are these teacher resources down here. So obviously these are great for homeschool families as well as for traditional teachers. So there's best practices, there's online tutorials, there's lesson plans. I always love finding lesson plans, you know, which are basically like activities you can do, all kinds of different lesson plans. So those teacher resources are down there for you, which is pretty great. Okay, so I wanted to show you, if we wanted to do a search in Indiana Memory, we could do one really quickly. I'm gonna look up Indianapolis 500, guys. Are you surprised? And you can see right away that we've gotten some pretty fun photographs from the 1980s with, actually one of these might have been a parade that I went to as a child. So you can see photos from the floats, all those kinds of things. And then you can also narrow your search as well. This time it's over on the right. So if you come over to the right here, you can actually narrow by date. So let's look at like 1920 to 1930 and see what we see. So here we actually have scans of tickets from the Indy 500 in the 1920s, which is so cool. If you're a big dork like my dad is, you would just spend all day looking at this stuff. I do love my father, and he's not a huge dork, but he's a little bit of a dork. Anyway, okay, so it is fun to look up just fun things, but I also want to show you a couple of other things that are in here that are really interesting. So we've got letters, Civil War. Shelby and I, who's here today, we were actually talking earlier about the Charlotte Mason approach, where they actually read a lot of like primary resources. Shelby, I can see you. So is that right? Are you not? Is that right? Can you nod? Yeah, okay. So this might work really well for the Charlotte Mason approach because these are actual letters written by people during the Civil War. And I'm just gonna pull up this one for you. And most of these have an Indiana connection. So if you click on it, I just did a couple of clicks, you can see we're still in Indiana Memory. And here's the letter right here. This is a letter that was written by Ransom Hawley, and this was written in 1862, I believe. And he was a student at Wabash College who then went off to fight in the Civil War. And I love this because I don't know how many of you are trying to teach your kids how to write in cursive, and they're like, why do I need to learn how to write in cursive? Well, this is why, because you can't read these historical documents unless you know cursive. But we can read this, hopefully. I was glad to receive Pa's letter last evening. I received a letter from Lena Tuesday and one from Lucy. And if we can't really read it, guess what? If we scroll down, a lot of times there's going to be a transcription. So here it says, Dear parents, I was glad to receive Pa's letter last evening. I received a letter from Lena Tuesday and one from Lucy and Henry this evening. So it's just so interesting to get in here and see actual artifacts from, you know, historical times, which is pretty interesting. So ways that you can use Indiana Memory. You can use it for primary resources. You can use it to do some research about local history. It totally helps influence the idea of the importance of learning handwriting. It really can make history come alive for students. I also think it's interesting to have students read something like this and then write a reflection upon it. Like, what would it be like to be a college student in 1862 and getting ready to go off to war, you know, eventually. And again, it's just a great place to look for photos, items, letters, artifacts, all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm checking my time. I do want to leave time for questions. So let's see what else I wanted to talk to you about today. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to go back to inspire.in.gov like a broken record. That's what we've been doing all afternoon. And I have two more things I want to show you, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. So the one is teachingbooks.net, and I have to admit I didn't try this one out today, so I hope this is going to work. For teaching books, you do have to get to it in a weird way. You click on it once, and then you click on it again. So we've done that. And then once you get here, it's going to ask you to verify your building, and you can just choose Indiana Public Library, hit continue, and then type in, just start typing in Indy, and it will find you, and then you can hit confirm. And this is really just for their statistics. So once you're in, this is a great place for language arts. So if you want your students to be reading different books, or if you're, excuse me, if you're studying a certain book, you can look for the book in here to get resources about the book. So this is a great thing for English class, for language arts class. So I just looked up wonder, and there are a few books, 4 books that came up with the word wonder in the title. And the one I was thinking about was the one by R.J. Palacio called Wonder. And what I want you to note are all of these resources down here that it talks about. So there's 39 resources about Wonder and 7 awards. So if I click on it, this is what the resource page looks like. You've got the book here. You've got the author. This is a link to the author page. And then if you scroll down, you can see all of these resources. So this is teachingbooks.net. They actually create their own resources, and then they gather them in from other places. And what I want you to see is they have book guides and activities and lesson plans. So I'm going to go ahead and expand that so you can see. This is a lesson plan about a story map. There's something over here about American Sign Language. There's a reader's theater script. There's an activity guide. There's a book discussion. There's all kinds of great things. So if you need anything for language arts, you're teaching a book, let's look up, now I can't think of any book title. Let's just look up Harry, see what we've got for him. I'm sure there's a billion things. 79 resources on Harry. So they even have really new books. Let's look up Brown Girl Dreaming. That's a beautiful book by Jacqueline Woodson. 64 resources on that one. Oh, and I also want to mention, a lot of times they have these name pronunciation guides for authors. And I did see in the chat somebody wanted to know how we got there, and I'll show you real quick. So you start at inspire.in.gov, and then you're going to click on teachingbooks.net, and then you have to click on it again, which is really annoying, but it's how you do it. So, and also this whole presentation is being recorded, so hopefully you'll get the link to that. Okay, guys, we're in the home stretch. We have 10 minutes left, and I only have one more thing to show you. So the last thing I want to show you is the test. Over here it says test and resume preparation. What this actually is the Learning Express library. And, oh wait, I'm going to tell you some more things about teaching books. How you can use teaching books. You can use it to help your child figure out what to read next. It's great for if you're teaching novels. It's wonderful if you're doing author research. They do have a list on there for Indiana authors. Just in the search box, you just type Indiana authors and you'll find a list. I don't know how many people here are interested in this, but you can find books in certain Lexile ranges. Sometimes that's helpful. And you can also use it to find award books. Didn't want to forget to tell you all that great stuff. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on this Learning Express library. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can do on this Learning Express library. I hope you are all getting really overwhelmed with wonderful resources because there's so many things. What I wanted to show you first on this, the thing that people come to the Learning Express library for is really the ACT, SAT test prep, which is right over here in college admissions test prep. There's also a section about high school equivalency center. And the thing that I want to make really clear is that this is a broad tool, which covers the whole nation. So there's nothing in here that's specific to Indiana, but it's very good if you just need like something to practice a practice test or something like that. But what I want to show you is actually the school center. And I think what I'll do is I'm actually going to come back to my slides to show you what this looks like, because I'm not going to take a test here in front of everybody. So let me see if I can get back there. Here we go. You can see I did screenshots for everything. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so we are over here at the school center. And in the school center, they have an elementary section that will tell you about math, and it will tell you about reading comprehension. In the middle school section, there's practice for math, for reading comprehension, for writing and grammar, for social studies, for vocabulary and spelling skills, and for high school entrance exams. So again, these are just ways to sort of get in and check to see how your kid is doing on things. In high school, it's even longer. You throw in technology skills and statistics skills and trigonometry, all kinds of things. So what I would do, you all, is get in here and just play around with it. Now, you do sign in, and again, this is going to be a unique sign in. It's not your Inspire sign in or your Rosetta Stone sign in. It's its own sign in. You sign in, and then it will help you go through all of some of these tests and things. So I wanted to show you, I did the geometry practice in the elementary school. And there were 4 options. There was a grade 2 for grade 4 and 2 for grade 5. So I did the grade 4 geometry practice test, and I went ahead and started my test, and I got questions like this. So I had to use the street map to find out which pairs of streets are perpendicular to each other. And yes, I had to look up what does perpendicular mean, because I did not remember. And after I figured that out, I think I got it right. So I took the whole test and I got an 80%. So apparently I need to go back and work on my geometry. But the nice thing is it tells you exactly which ones you got right and which ones you got wrong. And it also gives you a little bit of information to help you learn, you know, what you got wrong. So this was one of the questions I got wrong. How many of the figures below are regular polygons? Well, I wasn't really sure what that was, but I figured that this guy, he just looks weird, right? He's not regular. Well, he is. So, and then down here it says that a polygon is a closed figure made of line segments. A regular polygon size and angles are all equal. So then I could see that this was actually, this was the only one that was the right answer. So anyway, it actually, you know, told us what to do. So what can you use Learning Express Library for? You can use it for ACT, SAT test prep. You can use it for career exploration. You can use it for math practice and language arts practice, and even learning the Constitution. I wanted to mention that there's actually a really cool tool that if you get in there, I think it's under the social studies one, it'll take you through all of the different parts of the Constitution, which is pretty cool to look at. I didn't know very much about that either, so I'm gonna have to go back and take all of that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that this would be really good if you have a student that's really anxious to take the SAT or the ACT or something like that, and you wanna give them a, you know, a real easy introduction to it. This might be a good way to do that. Okay, so that is inspire.in.gov, and I'm going to minimize just so I can check my time. Okay, now I'm going to go back. We've got about 4 minutes left. And really quickly, I forget what I was going to tell you about the Indiana State Library. Oh, yes, I wanted to tell you, we actually have online resources as well. So this is what our library site looks like. It's in.gov/library. If you click on the top here where my little circle is, you can go to online resources. These top ones are only accessible when you're in the building. So don't even pay any attention to these unless you come and see us. But if you scroll down farther, all of these are available just to anybody, anybody anywhere. And some of these we covered: Hoosier State Chronicles, Indiana Memory, but the one that I wanted to mention is the one at the bottom here, Indiana State Library Digital Collections. This is really interesting to look at, all kinds of really cool stuff. And a lot of these, of course, have to do with genealogy. Okay, so I hope you come see us at the State Library. And that was where we were. All right, we have like no time, but we have a couple minutes. Does anyone have any questions?
I did get one, Suzanne, in the chat. Someone wanted to know how to find Explora one more time, if you don't
Okay,
mind showing
sure. Yep,
us.
I can show you that. So we're just at inspire.in.gov, and then you can get to it from databases A to Z and just look for Explora. Explora for elementary schools or for middle schools. But what I did was I did databases by subject tiled, and that gives you a better sense of kind of like what buckets all of our databases fit in. And it's down here at the bottom under student search, and you just click more and it's right down there. So I hope that helps. Any other questions?
One more time, where the school center
Oh, yep.
database was?
Sorry, I can show you that too. So that one, again, we're going to head off to inspire.in.gov, and it's over here. I wish this said Learning Express Library here at the top, but it doesn't. It says test and resume preparation, and that's where I was. So you click on that. And I didn't actually show you this, I just showed it to you with screenshots, so I'll show it to you now. So we're in Learning Express Library, and if you scroll down, here's where that school center is. And you can click on it, and then you can click elementary, middle, or high school. And what I did was elementary, and then I went into geometry practice. And there it was. There's the test that was hard for me. Actually, there's more than 4. There's a few, so I did the first one. So I hope that helps. And again, I know that was really quick, but this is being recorded, so hopefully that will help. Anything else, Shelby?
So far, no. We technically have about 3 minutes, so
Okay.
I learned a lot myself.
Oh,
so
good,
I'm
good.
yeah, this was great, Suzanne. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just wanted, this is my friendly reminder to everybody to answer the census. The state library has someone from the state data center that's really encouraging people to do that. So that's your reminder for that. And you guys are free to contact me if you have any follow-up information or any follow-up questions about Inspire. My information is right there, and Shelby is free to hand out my email address to anybody that needs it. So that's just fine. And then I also wanted to leave this up here. This is, actually, I'm going to just turn it over to Holly now,
Okay,
or
yeah,
whoever.
thank you so much, Suzanne. That was so much great info. And as Suzanne said, the session was recorded, and we will be sending that out to all of you as soon as it's available on our YouTube page. So just thank you all so much for coming. We hope you learned a lot. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or Suzanne, or our like if you have just any general library questions, the ndpl.org/contact will get you to a place where you can type in your questions, and it'll get funneled to the right person. So in addition to all of this, we want to just make sure you know about all the library resources we have available. Check out our website. We have all kinds of databases. We have access to ebooks for kids, adults, every sort of book you could want on ebooks, audiobooks, in addition, of course, to all of our physical resources. But we know a lot of you are probably looking for online resources, especially at this moment. Again, we just want to thank Suzanne for joining us today, for sharing all this great information. And we hope you'll join us for our next session that we're going to be hosting in September, Homeschooling 101, with a representative from the IAHE. And we will be sending out more info about that soon. So thanks again for coming. Have a great day, everyone. And we hope to see you again. Yes, thanks, Roosevelt. Indiana Association for Home Educators will be our next presentation. And we hope to have more in the future. So we welcome your feedback and ideas about things that you would like to hear about.
I believe you were sent an evaluation in your Zoom invite.
Yes, there was an evaluation. That'd be great if you could fill that out for us and just let us know anything that you want to share about this presentation or possible future presentations. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.